Welcome to the newest episode of Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. I'm your host, Jason Fraley, picking the brains of the top filmmakers, musicians, and artists of our time. David Strathairn stars this week in the Shakespeare Theatre play Remember This, the Lesson of Jan Karski, about a real-life witness to the Holocaust. We spoke about Karski's extraordinary life, as well as Strathairn's filmography from his Oscar nomination as Edward R. Murrow in Good Night and Good Luck to his role across Frances McDormand in Nomadland. Hey, David, thanks so much for joining us on WTOP.
Thank you. Honored to be here.
Tell me what this is. He's a witness to the Holocaust.
Yes, he was a courier during the war for the Polish underground, carrying messages mostly on foot from the front, so to speak, in Poland and throughout the theater of war, as some people say, to the government in exile in France. He carried both the messages of the Polish situation and the Jewish people of Poland and the Jewish people's plight during the war in general to the Western world, to London, and ultimately to the halls of government in the United States. Supreme Court Justice Felix Frankfurter was one of the people he reported to, and Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
So, so you're saying he was the messenger of truth that got those horrific reports out to the rest of the world. We forget that, such different times nowadays, nowadays we can watch, Afghanistan evacuation and we're watching in real time. But, then it took a guy like this spreading the word. You're saying he actually went by foot and spread the word?
That's right. Very, very different time in terms of the communication avenues to get information out from the war to the rest of the world. He is allegedly reputed to be the man who told of the annihilation of the Jewish people while there was still time to stop it. He visited the Warsaw Ghetto twice. In disguise, he went to a transit camp, Nazi transit camp. There were many others, I'm sure, who were doing similar kind of courageous work. But he was really, I think, the first person to get to the upper levels of the Allied nations. He didn't exactly make it to the office of Churchill, have an audience with Churchill, but he did with, as I said, Felix Frankfurter, who was a Associate Justice of the Supreme Court, and with Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And subsequently, he wrote a novel called Story of the Secret State, which kind of chronicled his life and his experiences with the Polish underground and his experiences during the war. So he was a bellwether. He was one of those canaries in the mine, to go with the coal miner vernacular. And he lived a life that today people would think, oh, that can only be written by Ian Fleming. That's a James Bond experience. Escaping several times, tortured within inches of his life, surviving a suicide attempt, and covering miles of territory on foot over the Pyrenees, in the snow, through France and Germany and Poland, carrying messages to the Polish government in exile, and ultimately to the world. Extraordinary man.
What a remarkable life story. Powerful, powerful stuff. And in terms of you having to play it, so this, just so our listeners know, this show, it's going to be at Shakespeare Theatre on October 6th through 17th, is it's a solo performance. Like, it's a one-man tour de force, as they say. So how are you, man, all this stuff of, him being a witness to such horrific history and being tortured within an inch of his life, like you say, and then meeting these dignitaries to spread the word. How was that actually played out with just one person on stage? That's a heavy lift, my friend.
Yeah, well, what I've learned by meeting him, so to speak, and getting to know him and sort of living with his legacy, is that he, as a teacher, which he spent 40 years doing at Georgetown University, he uh, people who had him as a teacher remember him as being a very demonstrative, dramatic, entertaining uh, professor who brought things to life. So the uh, the conception of the conceit of the show is that we're not really pushing the envelope that much in how he uh, shared and taught and expressed his experiences. Um, a very engaging personality, very arresting um, and dignified, and people considered him. They all wanted to get his class. So I impersonate in his voice the people that he comes in contact with. It's yeah, it might be a little hard for people to keep up with, but uh, I think the way Clark Young has scripted it and how Derek Goldman, who is the director, um, we've put together a very dramatic, visceral experience of and very uh, true to Karski, what Karski said throughout his life. You know, he spoke a lot about it. He gave a lot of interviews, a lot of testimony. Um, he's available on you can Google him, and he's a central figure in the documentary Shoah that Claude Lanzmann made, 9-hour documentary about the Jewish tragedy of World War II.
Oh, the
So
most comprehensive work on the Holocaust you'll ever find.
absolutely, yeah.
Wow. Well, it's just the latest of many incredible roles in your career, if I must say so myself. If you don't mind, I'd love to run through some of the highlights if you have some time, like rapid fire if necessary. But I mean, I think one of the first that most people remember was Silkwood. Just remember memories of sort of bursting onto the scene. I mean, that was one of your first big ones.
Uh, yeah, I guess you never know if it's a big one or a little one or whatever when you're doing it, but it had some pretty heavy hitters in there. Cher and Meryl Streep and Mike Nichols, the director, and a lot of people who had more mileage than I did. But yeah, that was a fun one.
Of course. And then of course, one of my personal favorites, Eight Men Out. I mean, we just had the big Field of Dreams game, which I love Field of Dreams too, but I mean, similar story with of the, the World Series being thrown 1919 White Sox, but how much did you enjoy? Was that one of your favorite roles as well?
It was, just getting out there to wear those old pajama uniforms, those baggy wool uniforms, and play baseball all day. What could be better? And yeah, it was a lot of fun doing that. A lot of fun.
Oh yeah, for sure. All right, and then staying on the baseball theme, A League of Their Own. That was another. I mean, a lot of people might even forget you're in that movie, but when I watch it back, I'm like, man, of course, he's pivotal.
Yeah, he's there in the periphery. He's the guy who eventually put uh, the uh, the team put the teams together. Wrigley was the guy played by Marshall, but that was another one which is. I've been lucky. I've been very fortunate to be a part of some really wonderfully received films, enjoyable films, and things that and stories that are true. And I like being part of sort of being part of the storytellers of history, so to speak.
Was that fun watching Tom Hanks sort of do his thing with the no crying in baseball and then all the cast really? I mean that thing was a deep bench, if you will.
Exactly, a deep bench, and I had a good vision of it from the bullpen there, or from the bleachers actually. Yeah, Tom's a wonderful guy.
Well, one of my personal favorites, a family favorite that I think that never gets enough attention, I think, is The River Wild. I thought, I mean, and then it was like a young John C. Riley in that too, and Kevin Bacon, and man, memories of The River Wild. That was like a modern day Deliverance.
Yeah, the family deliverance. Yeah, a challenging film to make, and the recipe for disaster is just add water. And you add water of that power, and you've got to know what you're doing. And fortunately, we had an amazing safety crew of renowned kayakers, in their own right, and helped us get through the without anybody taking any serious, deep, dangerous swims. You all took a swim, but they were there to teach us how to do it. And
Awesome.
yeah, another one that's up there on the shelf.
For sure. And then if anyone, any fans of neo noir, like, Chinatown and the like, LA Confidential, I still think is one of the great movies ever in that genre. Memories. I mean, you've had a lot of deep benches, but that cast was deep too. And, you were a real standout there in what I think is just one of those great neo noirs ever.
I think so too. I think LA Confidential is really should go into the hall, so to speak, as being one of the more uh, beautiful realizations of that time, and telling an adventure story, but also a cultural insight. And Curtis Hanson really, really, he did a beautiful job with that film.
Absolutely. And then, of course, my listeners will kill me if I don't ask you about Good Night and Good Luck. I mean, we here at WTOP, we're always, there's these Edward R. Murrow awards, and you got to play Edward R. Murrow. Talk about just how necessary it is to watch. I mean, kids should still watch that. It's just one of those great journalism movies, and you had George Clooney directing it, black and white, playing Fred Friendly with you. And man, it's just one of those great, I guess, like a cautionary tale of how journalism can push back against some more, arrogant forces in politics.
Absolutely. Well, first off, congratulations on your receiving of the Edward R. Murrow Award. That's not that's quite an honor. So, congratulations on that.
And congrats on you for playing him. I want to hear what it was like playing him.
Well, when I got past the smoking situation, it, it was one of those one of those roles which I always felt I was behind the eight ball because of the reputation of the man, and what it was about, the relevancy of the film, um, giving viewers who would go to it today, um, a window into what broadcast journalism was like, what the media was like. It seems like science fiction compared to what it is today, or vice versa. But that what can, and I believe should be, the standards, and that's why Edward R. Murrow is held high. What I think can and should be are those standards that he set. Truth to power, and confront in as objective a way as possible. Yeah, the standards set by Edward R. Murrow, I think all broadcast journalists and all media personnel should see it, or maybe not the film, but they should at least be told, or somehow informed about what it was like and what he did. It's I mean, you could go on and on about his influence and his legacy. So making the film was really quite special. That's I will cherish that.
Oh yeah, Joe McCarthy really met his match with that. Cool. Well, and then something completely different, an action movie classic, The Bourne Ultimatum. That just a thrilling to be a part of, as thrilling it was for us to watch it.
Yeah, yeah, very exciting to shoot. The pacing of the film, the editing of the film, which I think is the real genius of the film, and as well, the cinematography, but the editing and how once the ball starts rolling, you can't stop it, and it's very engaging, and I think it's really brilliantly shot.
Oh yeah, one of Matt Damon's career roles. So cool that you're going toe to toe with him in that. All right, and then a pair of sort of bringing it back to sort of the history idea, a pair of biopics you were a part of, across Daniel Day-Lewis in Lincoln, and then Gary Oldman in Darkest Hours, Winston Churchill. Hey, if they want to win an Oscar, I guess all they have to do is portray a head of state with you in the movie, right?
I don't know. I'm not going to take any credit for contributing to those extraordinary performances. Um,
But a cool,
and
but was it cool to be now? When kids look and generations will try to look back at those moments in history. Civil War and World War II with Lincoln and Churchill. It's got to be an honor that you're there as part telling those stories.
yeah, it is. It was and it is. Yeah, for sure.
All right, well then, sort of wrapping it up before we get back around to the Shakespeare Theater, we got to mention this year's. I mean, it's the reigning Best Picture, Nomadland. I mean, that movie, I think it really, I mean, not only was Frances amazing, but you really were a standout as well. And man, I was, me and everyone else were rooting for her to, end up with you. But I know it's that really wasn't sort of her journey at the end. It was more about overcoming her grief. But why do you think that movie was touched such a nerve? Is it the fact that we've been all in a pandemic, and the idea of getting in a van and traveling the country, and sort of that captured sort of that isolation in an odd way that we've all been going through, or what is it? What do you think why do it work for you?
I think you're onto it. It was came at a time when people were feeling unsettled in their lives, foreclosures, lives being compromised not only by the COVID, but economic situations, ideologies crashing in on people. Who knows what would have happened to put somebody out there on the road? And it's a subculture in America that is quite pervasive. And the road itself has, I think, been a sort of mythic part of the American experience. Um, so it rang the bell on several levels, I think. Loss, recouping yourself, finding a way back into a community, uh, and on a very, very basic level. No bells and whistles about living in a van. And I think the kindness of strangers and the freedom that it affords too is another part of why I think it struck a bell. And it's a very simple, unassuming uh, film, and it's about some very just everyday human beings trying to find some kind of community. I think it was beautifully done by Chloe. And Fran was very brave, Frances McDormand, very brave in depicting Fern in the way she did.
Oh yeah, it was a the way Chloe Zhao just it was sort of that hybrid of a narrative and a documentary with some real life nomads. It was just it messed with the form of filmmaking a little bit, and was just a powerful emotional story as well with great performances. You all, so yeah, I mean it was a great movie, and so hats off to you for that. Yeah, actually, you know what? Right before that movie came out, you joined us this time last year to do Theater of War's Oedipus project, which was like a virtual Zoom, reading of Sophocles, Oedipus the King. And Francis was with you on that too, right? So just talk about how any memories of that project, 'cause that might be the last time us folks in DC, that we tuned in for something like that.
Well, Theater of War, that project has been going on now for 7, 8 years now. No, maybe more than that. I'd say maybe it's 10, 11 years now. Um, yeah, it's dear to my heart. I'm really fortunate to be a part of the acting cast, which is now sometimes 20 plus actors around the world who are at a drop of a hat will do one of these readings, and it's a project that I think has a, a, a surprising amount of emotional impact, and it's in its ability to get people together in a room to share feelings and about trauma on all sorts of levels. And it doesn't matter who you are, what walk of life you come from. Everybody can to relate to these issues. And I think that what Brian Dories has done with Theater of War is extraordinary. It's really a gift to all of us to have a place, a safe place, where we can go and share and experience and triangulate our experiences with someone else's through a play of 2,500 years ago. That's the way what I feel about the Karski project as well. This man was another time. World War II was a totally another time. But his story is, I think, so vital and essential to us now because the world is feeling very divisive and fractured and unsettled. And there's a lot of stuff that gives us anxiety and is also making people separate into different camps. He, in the long run, was a teacher. And that was his greatest gift, or second greatest gift after testifying and bearing witness to the war atrocities. But as a teacher, he passed on the principles of speaking truth and learning about our past so that hopefully we don't make those mistakes again. That's going to be a never-ending lesson that we all have to learn. But yeah, in terms of the historical impact of what we're doing as theater people, I think it's one of the more important things, and I'm really feel responsible, but I also feel fortunate that I can be there sharing experiences that bring people together for the better.
Absolutely. And I can't think of a better place to do it and get that message out and teach that history than here in the nation's capital. Everyone, again, it's called Remember This, The Lesson of Jan Karski, and it's going to be at Shakespeare Theatre Company from October 6th through 17th. One-man solo performance here, so you don't want to miss it. Thanks so much, David. I really, really appreciate it. And, you're always so insightful whenever you come on. And, I mean, it's just, if I must say so myself, I mean, well, I'd say I know you've gotten Oscar nominations and stuff, but I think your career is just one of the body of work. I think you're just so underrated. So I got to tell you, I think you're so underrated and you deserve all the acclaim in the world.
Well, thanks, Jason. We all put our pants on one leg at a time, unless you're more nimble and you can jump into them. But, there are a lot of us out there trying to do the same thing. And I've been very fortunate to be part of some really great, I say works of art, theatrical and filmic. We did a film of this just before COVID, just as COVID was starting to make its way through the world. We made a documentary film of the piece of the play, which is trying to find its way out in and around film festivals and things. So hopefully that will be out there. So if people don't get to see the performance, they'll get to see the film. We made it with the intention of it being kind of an educational platform, be used in schools of foreign service and political, curriculum. Because as I said before, and I will always say it, I think Karski's lesson, his legacy, is something that will grab you and it will stick with you if you're open to it. And that's what I hope what happens with the audiences, that they enjoy the evening, but they also take something away that can, move things forward in a positive way.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much again for joining us. I can't think of a better way to a sign off line other than, from one Murrow radio station to the man who played him. Help me with it. Good night
and good luck.
Thanks so much for joining us on Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. Remember to hit the subscribe button and give us a 5-star rating if you like what you hear. We'll see you next time. I wanted to take a second to tell you about an app I really enjoy. Living in the DC area is great, and Podcast DC gathers all of the local shows that I like all in one local app. Health, sports, local news, politics, and so much more. Podcast DC is the new local app with hundreds of DC area podcasts to choose from. I can earn exciting rewards just for listening and share the podcasts I love instantly. Available in the App Store or in Google Play, listen local with Podcast DC.